process. And then we'll divide you, we allow you to enter in breakout rooms. Next slide, please. So yes, the content, the agenda follow like 4 main sections. In the first part, we will introduce ourselves, and in the second part, we will explain a little bit about the IGF 2023, which I will remind you that it's a hybrid. And then we will allow you to enter in breakout rooms. Well, before we will explain you how the breakout rooms work. And then if you have any questions before going in breakout rooms, we are here to answer. Next slide. And here I would like to leave the floor to Nicolas to introduce the YCIG.
Excellent, Veronica, thank you. So here is a context for you to know. The Youth Coalition on Internet Governance was launched more than 10 years ago, and it's an open, non-commercial group for all the different stakeholders advocating for the youth voices in different IG discussions around the world, from the regional, national, and the global, and all these processes, multi-stakeholder processes that happen around the world. And this was also enriching youth participation locally to have a voice and learnings from the global policy perspective. And then the idea of fostering more education with the young people and implementing these IG frameworks in a good manner. So our vision and mission is like to have an open, accessible, and free internet for inclusive participation, especially for the young people in these internet governance debates, and to be part of the decision-making processes as well. So, and the main mission that is more in the ground is, well, to engage these national, regional youth coordinators and young participants and amplify their voices in the regional, global level and at the different NRI work. So that is an average of what is our organization. We have 1 member per region. From the United Nations region, we have Theo from the Asia Pacific, me for the Latin America and Caribbean region. Mauricia from South Africa is responsible for the Africa national and regional youth initiatives, and Marco is the general for and Joao Pedro Martins are the one for the Eastern and for the Western Europe and other groups, regional thing. And well, that is all from my part. Willing to be with you. We are very happy to have this process for the 4th year or the 3rd year. So it's a good pleasure to because as you know, last year we achieved like 10 or 9 sessions out of 11. That was a great success in the issue of the young having a voice in the different sessions, because these sessions were youth-led sessions, as you know. So sometimes talking with high-level speakers, senior speakers, but having a conversation with the youth, with their worries, with their concerns about the specific topics. So very happy to be with you with this fantastic year. We have 8 thematic tracks, so hoping the best for everyone to be cooperating and involving in the different organizations, environment, and with the concerns you have. Thank you so much. Leave the floor to Vero.
Thank you. I will introduce very quickly the Youth Standing Group instead. The Youth Standing Group is the Internet Society group of young people. We welcome everyone as our members, regardless of the age, but we promote the interests of young people in internet governance. The board, as you can see, is made of 7 members, each of us representing 1 region. I'm from Italy. Then you can see Joao from Brazil, Mauricia from South Africa, Herman from Colombia, Elisa from Albania, Shada and Mohammed from from India. The Youth Standing Group is a group made of 1,800 members so far, and it was created in 2015 as Youth Observatory, as you can see in the logo, and then was recognized by the Internet Society as a special interest group. And since there, the board members that preceded us has done an amazing job, and the youth members of the youth group of the Internet Society grew a lot, and the Internet Society decided to keep the youth group as a permanent, giving us a permanent status. So in 2022, we received the status of standing group. The board of directors is elected every 2 years. Currently, we are in our second year, and next year we will have another election. So I would like to invite all the active members of the Internet Society to step up, to be more involved and make yourself known to the community, so that next year you can be, the next board members. And those who are not, you are not members of the Internet Society, you can register to be a member. It's free. And you can choose to become a member of the Youth Standing Group. Our purpose, of course, is to, facilitate the participation of young people in Internet governance, and within the umbrella of the principle of the Internet Society, which stands for an open and global and secure Internet. And this being said, we welcome you again in this session, and I will leave the floor now to Izan to introduce the IGF 2023 subcommittee.
Thanks, Veronica. Hi, everyone. My name is Izan, and I'm here to sort of introduce the IGF Working Group Subcommittee. This is basically a group of volunteers made up of both the Youth Standing Group as well as the YCIG and a few members from here and there, in order to try to help coordinate and incentivize the development of, for example, workshop proposals, finding associated roles like rapporteurs and moderators and speakers, for all of the topical themes. We will be the ones who will be leading and facilitating the conversations during the breakout rooms later as well. And we are involved in large part to try to help you understand what the key concerns might be in this space, and try to understand what you might want to discuss as part of the topics for any workshop proposals or presentations that you intend to put forward to the IGF Secretariat and the MAG, who will ultimately make the decisions on which sessions get accepted and which ones don't. So we are going to try to improve upon our position last year and make sure that we propose as many as we can and get the full range of concerns of the youth when it comes to internet governance issues for each of the thematic areas put forward. Another activity that we are going to be conducting as well is developing our response to the UN Technology Envoy's consultation on the Global Digital Compact. There was a forum that was open until yesterday, and we have received a number of responses from there as well. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be collating them, summarizing them, and creating essentially the position paper for the youth when it comes to how we want to look at our digital futures via the Global Digital Compact. So there's about 14 or 15 members in our group so far, and there's it's comprised of individuals that you've seen in the previous two slides, as well as individuals in this slide. So we have Katerina, we have Theros, there's myself, we have Amelia, Connie, and Pedro, and all of us, as well as the other people who have been previously introduced, will be in the breakout sessions and the working groups, and we will be the ones coordinating and liaising with you, especially in the form of Telegram channels for each of the different thematic areas, to try to engage and figure out what it is that we can do going forward when proposing different topics to the IGF. So yeah, we're here. We're very happy to help, and I will yield my time back. So I'll give it back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ethan. Now I would like to leave the floor to Pedro, who will explain a little bit what the IGF 2023 this year is about.
Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. Just to be sure, can you hear me well? I'm without a microphone specifically, so okay. I would just like to start explaining what the Internet Governance Forum is for those who are just getting to know this ecosystem, this whole new world. So it's nice to start with formal definitions presented in their own site. The IGF is a global multi-stakeholder platform that facilitates the discussion on public policy issues pertaining to the Internet. And formally, although it does not have decision-making mandates, it's a place that informs and inspires people who do. So it's a space that's it's well designed for facilitating common understandings, knowledge exchange, how to maximize internet opportunities, addressing risks and challenges, this kind of thing. The mandates that Internet Governance Forum has is under the United Nations structure was determined by the World Summit on the Information Society, that is called WSIS, on 2005 in Tunis, and it was extended for another 10 years in 2015 by the General Assembly during the WSIS Plus 10 review. But I think the most important part of the IGF is not just formal definition. It's a place to you can stay there on the first slide for now. Can you please go back? Oh, there you go. It's a place to network. So to get to know people who will be important to your future, to our future. And I don't mean just important people, important institutions. It's a place that you should use to make friends. It's a place that you should talk to people, exchange ideas about what you like to work with, study with, be kind, be nice, and try to get to know these people a little bit more in depth. It was in my first IGF, for example, that I knew some of the people that are still some of my best internet governance friends, such as Nico and Newt, who are here with us. So back to the important part. This year, the 11th annual meeting of the IGF will take place in Kyoto, and the overarching theme will be the Internet we want, empowering all people. The event will take place from October 8 to October 12. It will be a hybrid format, which means that it will happen online and on site, and online participation is greatly facilitated by the Secretariat since the pandemic. It was already possible before, but now they try to do it as much as an immersive experience as possible. And we also have an important thing here, that's the youth track and the Global Youth Summit. The youth track was built on the demand and engagement opportunities from young people all over the world. And it's a continuing work based on the outputs of each year's Global Youth Summit that happens during the IGF. And it's the culmination, this final moments of each year youth track work. So there are a set of activities that connect young people interested in intergovernance around the world among themselves, but also connect them to senior stakeholders. The focus this year is on cybersecurity and trust, but as you will see, it actually works with a lot of other subjects and thematics that are normally connected somehow to this broad theme. So can you go on to the next slide, please? There are also many other ways that you can continuously engage with the IGF. The first one is the best practice forums, which provide a platform to exchange experiences in addressing internet policy issues. The objective of these BPFs are to collect existing and emerging good practice from community experience. It's not to develop new policies or practice. The development of new policies and practice are actually parts of the policy network scopes. They are groups that work through intersectional work and are facilitated by multi-stakeholder working groups of experts. in an effort to provide in-depth expert view on broad internet governance forums, broad internet governance topics that is of interest of the global population. All of these spaces are open, inclusive, bottom-up, consultative, so everyone can be a part of them. And besides those two, we also have the dynamic coalitions, which are almost as old as the IGF itself, and are open with stakeholder groups dedicated to internet governance issues or set of issues. They talk a lot about a lot of thematics. If you have a specific interest in internet governance, you probably will find a dynamic coalition that works with it. YCIG, for example, is a dynamic coalition, and they also kind of intermingle their work with other groups there. But it's not a book, it's a feature. It's nice to have a lot of people, even in different groups, talking about similar subjects. Can you please go on to the next slide? And we will talk about that a little more in depth later. But this year, the 2023 IGF will have, besides that great thematic, that great overall thematic, a number of specific themes that will be the scope of each working group subject. So these ones we will talk in detail in a few moments, but this is just so you know what will be the scope of the workshops that we will work with. Can you please go to the next slide? And to finish my parts, there are 6 session formats that we can choose to present the workshops that we will be developing during this the work in the following months. And just to remember, there is a lot. There is a great number of presentations options that we can choose, that IGF can choose to have their sessions. The workshop is the one that provides the most engagement of the community, and this is the one that we will focus on. So the workshops also have within them 6 formats of sessions that we can choose. I will go really fast, really briefly through them. The breakout group discussions that involve several separate, smaller conversations that take place during the same time. After the subject is generally introduced by a moderator. A roundtable discussion is the one that puts the speakers in conversation with one another in a particular theme or issue, with a moderator introducing the subjects to experts. We will debate among themselves before engaging the audience. A debate is a format that aims to weigh opposing views on an issue and to assess the logical arguments supporting each view. 2 sides will present an idea and discuss among themselves, one in favor, one against, or with different perspectives on the same thing. The Birds of the Future is a format that is more loose. You don't have any prepped agenda, you discuss the things as they go on. In the tutorial format, it's not a discussion, but a presentation format. So they are shorter than other options, but you will say what you are developing, you will teach people how to achieve a certain idea. And the panel format, which is probably the most common one, you invite a diversity of experts to explore an emerging internet policy issue. And it's an interesting way to compare and contrast the various positions of several main actors. And they normally end with a Q&A from the moderator of the audience. But you can also have the option to propose a new format. It's the other alternative, and when you are fulfilling the workshop there. So you have this option, and you're also encouraged to go to choose this option, so you can be creative on how you will develop your workshop. So next slide. I think that's it. And I will go back to Veronica.
Thank you, Pedro. Now we are going to have an in-depth explanation of each of the thematic tracks that for this year, IGF 2023, compared to last year or to the past year. To this year, we have 8 thematic tracks, and we have the coordinators that today that they will explain what the subtopics covered by each thematic track, and I will leave the floor to them. And first is Elisa for the AI and emerging technology.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the topic of AI and emerging technologies, some of the subtopics that are included in this are the artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, smart devices, quantum computing, regulation, and of course also the human rights and self-regulation on the human aspect of this topic. This topic includes a lot of multi-stakeholder dialogue and cooperation to ensure that these technologies are developed and deployed into a human-centric and human rights-based manner. I'm not sure why as well as I should also emphasize on the new trend, which is the augmented and virtual reality, such as ChatGPT and so on. Next, I think.
Which topic is next, Vero?
No, just go on with the slide.
Oh.
I think we can just sort of move on the basis of what slides are there as opposed to ordering it according to the thematic area. So I'll take this one because this is mine, as well as Fio's. So we are both the facilitators for the data governance and trust thematic area for this year. This was one of the largest areas of interest across all regional groups as well as stakeholder groups, because it's continuing to be a very, very pressing issue. So when we look at the IGF call for thematic inputs, they were at 13% of the overall responders, making it the 3rd highest area of interest. With data privacy and data protection being the most popular subtopic within this area. It's also very, very important for the Global Digital Compact as well. And so the processes that are sort of operating in parallel include a lot of overlap with the areas of the IGF sort of concern for this year. The main areas that this main thematic area of data governance and trust will cover, again, this is not meant to be sort of exclusive or complete in any way. It's just an indication of what sort of topics people would be interested in. So we have data privacy and protection, which is the most popular one by far, but we also have big data, open data, data localization, so the tendency of countries to try to keep data within their borders, data services, so this is looking at all of the big data platforms and companies online that take advantage and make use of data in a very, very fundamental sense. International data spaces, the free flow of data, all of these things are very much related with global cooperation on how we can make the free exchange of data much simpler but also protected, and data minimization, which is in stark contrast to big data, where should we try to minimize the amount of data that we necessarily hold? Is it better in that case, more privacy protecting in that case, and so on? So the key questions that really you should be thinking about as we are going into the breakout rooms is how do we ensure that personal data is used fairly across all jurisdictions, not just one, because we know the GDPR is very topical, but there are other pieces of legislation for different countries that are coming around that try to do similar things. So how can we ensure that there's some sort of harmonization? Is that even a good thing? Can we ensure fair use and privacy guarantees across borders, and how do we coordinate that? How do we also focus on not just the protection of personal data, but maximizing the value that we can get out of data with these considerations in mind, because everyone knows there's quite a common trope that data is the new oil. Well, how do we make sure that we're using this oil in the most appropriate and effective way, balancing the needs for innovation and also the needs for protection? And one other thing that I want to emphasize for not only this particular area, but areas going forward as well that will be explained by my fellow colleagues, is think about the possible links between other themes as well, because this is one of the things that makes the IGF very, very interesting, is the whole cross-fertilization of ideas across individuals who have different interests. So one example that I've given over here is the issue of internet fragmentation and data localization. If you're forcing individuals to hold data in a particular jurisdiction, and that means the data cannot flow, is that going to create a tendency to having localized internets or potentially fragment the user experience if services are not going to be allowed to take operations in particular countries if they're not going to comply with data localization requirements? So these are just a number of questions that you can think about. You can always find intersections with other areas as well. So just to reiterate, I'm going to be the facilitator for that breakout space along with my colleague Theo, and just a couple of nuggets of information, things to think about before you decide which breakout spaces you'd like to enter into. So yeah, that's data governance and trust, really exciting topic this year and pretty much every year since 2015, 2016 when the GDPR was being proposed. So look, very excited to engage in those sort of discussions with yourselves. With that, I will yield my time to the next topic, which I think is, digital divides.
Thank you so much, Izan. Very beautifully explained. Hello, everyone. My name is Marisha Abdul-Chilunda, and I am one of the facilitators that will be taking you through your journey if you choose to join the Digital Divides and Inclusion Track team. My colleague that will be also assisting in the room, and that will be at your, well, I can't say beck and call, but that would be available to you if you need assistance, is JC, and he's fantastic. You will meet him in the breakout room very shortly. I wanted to just really quickly share with you that, access and connectivity has actually come up as a predominant area of interest, right? And it came up in 3 of the UN regions. So it's very, very much still in the forefront of the agenda. I know there's a lot of countries that have been able to zone in on various important areas of the digital divide and inclusion, and they have made great strides in doing so. And we are very proud of these countries. However, there are still voices coming to the fore. We still have a 2.9 billion people across the world unconnected. And the 2023 statistics, for example, is still reflecting that countries like India, China, Bangladesh, and Ethiopia are the top countries with the most unconnected peoples. And surprisingly, Nigeria came in as a close 6th. So, and many of you that are familiar with the country of Nigeria know that there's been quite a few developmental strides in Nigeria, and yet still they've come in as 6th, which emphasizes once again that topics of the digital divide and inclusion is very, very pivotal to still engage in. You will hear some sounds in the background. I've got 2 little ones. This is what gender inclusion in internet governance looks like. And to reiterate, it's really important that we still engage on the topics of the digital divide and meaningful inclusion, I will add. So what has come out in my analysis across kind of the trends in the digital divide and inclusion have been that we still need a lot of conversation coming from the global South perspective. And we still need your voices to come to the fore and to the table, to come and problem solve and to raise the predominant issues that are coming out in terms of the digital divide and inclusion as it pertains to the global South. But this doesn't mitigate the fact that we also need cross-regional analysis so that we can understand and see the full picture, right, of what digital inclusion and, well, meaningful inclusion across the digital divide will look like in years to come. So on that note, there are various areas that can be focused on within this track, and this list that you see before you is most definitely not exhausted. So when we get into the breakout rooms, the floor will be yours really to share your ideas around what you feel is most important for us to focus on in proposal development, and we'll flesh those out. We'll flesh those out for sure. And I want to give you all who are interested in these areas a very warm welcome to the group Digital Divides and Inclusion track. I'm so excited to meet you all and to hear your ideas and to get working, because that's definitely what we will be doing. So prepare yourself for lots and lots of activity and lots of communications coming through. So if you're ready to work, I'll see you in the breakout rooms. Over to the next speaker. Thank you so much.
And now we're coming to the topic of avoiding internet fragmentation. And this year, this thematic track, like the working proposals, will be coordinated by the team of three, by Herman, me, and Pedro. And what do we mean by internet fragmentation is already a question itself without even diving deeper into the key issues. But we have to start from this understanding that we keep saying that we're standing for global, open, and interoperable internet, and it is a core value of the IGF. At the same time, we have to understand a bit deeper what it means and what it implies. It implies that there are common technical standards and protocols. That the internet stays the network of interconnected networks across countries and borders and regions, and also that standards for services and content are staying similar or the same and consistent with human rights and the rule of law across the world. And last year, the policy network on internet fragmentation was created to specifically dive deeper in the issue of internet fragmentation, and even framing the approach to it like avoiding internet fragmentation, standing for understanding that internet fragmentation is bad. At the same time, it's really difficult to understand exactly what it is. And that's why I listed for you such criteria how we can see internet fragmentation as fragmentation of user experience, fragmentation of the technical layer, fragmentation of the global governance. And like user experience fragmentation is the easiest to understand, like from the first sight, as some applications are used in different countries differently. Either you are not able, for example, to use WhatsApp in China, or you are using the same application, but with different terms and conditions, with different settings for data protection, for the other options you can use. Or, for example, Instagram doesn't show you how many people shared your stories in between themselves because it doesn't have access to your private messages in Europe because of the GDPR. And all of that is only a tiny, simple example of internet fragmentation. And that's only a drop in the ocean, so to say. And there are different actors fostering this internet fragmentation. It can be government, it can be a commercial company, it can be any other technical community, and they're trying to do the best, but the outcome has to be balanced and assessed whether the good goal they're trying to achieve is outweighing the bad impact on internet. The worst case is always the internet shutdown, which is usually used by the governments to suppress human rights, freedom of expression, and generally the rule of law. And that's what is definitely agreed by everyone, that it should be avoided at all costs. But at the same time, it still continues to happen. And this policy network on internet fragmentation, they're also trying to see further how can we address this threat of fragmentation. And the few ways they identified are multi-stakeholder governance, interoperability of standards and protocols, meaning that it doesn't mean that everything has to be the same. We understand that countries are different, companies are different, diversity is acceptable, but it has to stay interoperable. At the same time, it's also crucial to keep the human-centered approach and to make sure that internet stays global. And in this whole debate, this whole ocean of different positions, opinions, approaches, we would like to try this year to find the place for youth. What is our position in that? How can we foster this multi-stakeholder governance? How can we make sure that we are included in this debate, that the approach, that the global good goals of governmental policy regulations that are targeting, for example, youth, and addressing some online safety or child abuse online issues, that they're actually assessed very critically through the prism of internet fragmentation and its impact on the global internet. And that's going to be an exciting journey. And we have a couple of weeks to work on that together with Pedro and Herman. And now we're also looking forward to welcome you in the breakout room after all the topics are introduced and start brainstorming any ideas on the proposals. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Marko Pavlovski, and me and my colleague Connie will be facilitators of the Cybersecurity, Cybercrime and Online Safety Working Group. We will gonna be focusing more on a lot of issues, I mean, because cybersecurity, especially in those days and last few years, it's a hot topic. And also, if you can see from the, from the IGF thematic areas, the highest number had on this topic on the cybersecurity, 70% it was. Here are a lot of key issues which we can take a look and brainstorm later, but I will just say some of those here. Cyber practices, cyber attacks and cyber conflicts. Especially here, we have a lot of, how can I say, big room that we can brainstorm on the cyber attacks. Because we have a lot of cyber attacks in the previous years. Also, another topic that is hot is accountability for cyber attacks, or maybe specifically talking when I mentioned this, it was challenges of attribution and subsequent response. We have seen a lot of countries accusing another country that they have been attacked by them, but on a lot of these cases, we don't have, the countries do not show a proof, and also they just accuse the country, but do not take any response. So those are interesting opinions. How we can brainstorm and think about those kind of things. Child online safety, which is, I think, all-time popular and very important topic, especially where we can, as a youth, see how we can prevent and get some education or some practices that we can implement, because we as a youth, we are using a lot of the end technologies, and we are maybe closer to the childs. Disinformation and misinformation, this also correlates with some other thematics, but it's also important. Media literacy and disinformation, environment safety, illegal and harmful content. Here is also overlapping with some other topics, but it's seeing how from cybersecurity and security online perspective, this can be important. Cyber hygiene, which I think is very important. I'm speaking this because in my country, in the last 5 months, we have our Ministry of Health was hacked, and also we had a lot of fake bomb calls in the schools. I'm telling this like in the months every day calling that there is a bomb, and all those kind of things. And this is happening because of cyber hygiene that the public institutions and the government is not practicing well, or maybe it's not on that level that it should be. So it's very popular topic. Trust and accountability measures, and of course cyber diplomacy. Those are some of the key issues. That doesn't mean that those are only the issues that we're going to talk about. Of course, here, for example, it's also important youth cyber skills. I mean, people lacking with cyber education. That we see also a lot of companies saying that cybersecurity is in the next years will be a very demanding profession. Also national strategies and practices, because okay, it's happening. We know that a lot of countries are talking about seriously about cybersecurity, but what happens when cyber attack is happening? For example, I don't know, some government institution, who are they contacting? How is the scenario? What are the, I don't know, CERT teams or the private companies that take response? A lot of those things are not very well defined in most of the countries, and this is a problem, because when something like cyber attack occurs, they do not know how to correlate or how to organize the response, and how can this be minimized, and of course inform the public with all the information. So I think I talked a lot of things, and I checked a lot of different areas, but anyone who is interested in these topics, feel free to join our breakout room later and yeah, brainstorm more on those topics. Thank you.
I think now is my turn. So for the Global Digital Governance and Cooperation new thematic track, as you know, this year and the last year and the next one will be all about the Global Digital Compact, this artifact that the United Nations created, along with other past artifacts like the high-level panel of the digital cooperation. Another one was the Net Mundial initiative in the past. It's a multi-stakeholder space when people is drafting principles, drafting how is the global vision on some of the emerging topics, and for them later to include a multilateral process involving all governments in the world to these practices or action key points oriented with the topics need to be practiced, like Marco said. So at the end, with the Global Digital Compact and the Global Digital Governance scenario is broadened, this could lead to some intersections with the other group, the data, the first one, because the Global Digital Compact is a lot focused on data security or data values, actually. So there are some, it's all around data, so could be some intersections with the other working group. But I think there are here more deep in thematics, like how the multi-stakeholder approach works actually on in practicality of the multi-stakeholder scenarios. For example, issues about cross-border cooperation, how we are achieving this. For example, you talked about when deciding about an internet fragmentation, so it need to be a multi-stakeholder approach in the country or in the region. So at the end, all need to be involved in those processes or decisions. These are some of the policy questions we could think about the digital ethics, right? To have global perspective or global commonalities on these things, defining some concepts and practicing these concepts by default. For example, there are some approaches like going secure by design. So this is a governance decision, because every software needs to be secure by design, or there are the critical properties of the internet that we need to respect globally. So all the issues that need to be global addressed are into this topic, and also about crisis response and international cooperation on data. That is more with what our colleague Isan was talking about, when how we can benefit from this data, not only for the commercial perspective, but for the human perspective. Like there are a lot of data out there, and the data itself has the opportunities hidden for fostering more sustainability, etc. So at the end, we need to use with these IoT devices not for commercial use, but for other perspective, for other information that could be hidden there that will be beneficial for all the human in the world. So these kind of things, and also about the IGF organization and role, what is the role of the Internet Governance Forum Secretariat actually, or what is about these improvements that year to year need to be happening, and maybe they are not happening, why we don't have a common platform, or I imagine as a technical multi-stakeholder software platform or something to get with this drafting, because now we have different NRIs, youth NRIs around the world. So all these topics are related with this thematic trust on how to improve the current structure and how to develop the future of the Internet governance, actually. So very welcome you. I will be in this group facilitating together with some colleagues. And in the past, we have had sessions about this topic on, for example, on the multi-stakeholder level body discussions on including the youth there. Other discussions about the high-level panel of the digital cooperation some years ago, how the process was, and especially how the youth are participating in multi-stakeholder or in the decision-making. So these kind of sessions can be suitable for this thematic track. Thanks. Is Jose or Emilia at the call?
Can I ask to unmute Jose?
Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. It's pretty much exciting. I'll be doing a presentation on human rights and freedom. Undisputably, human rights, the internet and human rights are closely related because the internet has become a fundamental tool for exercising and protecting human rights in the modern world. The internet provides a platform for freedom of expression, access to information, and ability to connect with others, and even organize social and political change, just like what we are having right now. At the same time, the internet also presents challenges and risks to human rights, such as online surveillance, censorship, and the spread of information. What this working group primarily seeks to thoroughly ventilate is the human rights issues and freedom with regard to civil rights and political rights, the economic and social and cultural rights, democracy, freedom of expression, and online censorship, and child rights online. Primarily, this topic is such an expansive subject. We can just look from across board, from Asia, from Africa, from Southern America, thoroughly ventilate and represent something visible. We can even look at ensuring how human rights in the digital world from a youthful perspective. I will exercise brevity. I think we have, time is not our greatest enemy, it is our greatest enemy. So I'll exercise brevity as other stakeholders. So I'll employ you, if you are interested in human rights and freedom, you just join our breakout session as we thoroughly look at it. It promises to be exciting. See you soon. Over to you, Veronica.
Thank you. We have one last working group to present. Theodore?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I've just been going through the other presentations, and I must say that it has been great. But one of the other areas that is currently taking ground, and one of the other areas that people are trying to shift attention to is the issue of environment and how we can sustain that. I'm co-facilitating this room with Mohammed, so both of us will be in the working room. We hope you do pass by, but some of the topics we have here are not exhaustive. So that's the essence of the break room. We will be going more into details to other areas that is of importance, but we'll be tackling issues of climate change. How sustainable is that? The issue of pollution and all that, the issue of environmental development, how can the internet help to sustain? We'll be looking into areas of Internet of Things. We'll be looking at smart home devices and how those things have some effect, how those development or new innovations going to affect our environment and all of that. We are going to be looking at data as well in all areas. Data is important, collection of human data or personal data. If you use smart home devices and all of that, where do those data go? How can those data be secure, etc.? We'll be looking at e-waste as well, which is one of the trending topics ongoing as well. We'll be looking at supply chain, we'll be looking at food and water security and all of that. And so, as I said earlier, this is just a few of the things that we'll be looking out for. Once we go into the break rooms, we can develop or delve more into that. So I hope and really implore that we get a lot of people in this area, and we would want to have your thought, your ideas, and how we can develop that. Thank you so much, Veronica and the team.
Thank you. Can I have the next slide? So I think that everyone is really enthusiastic to contribute to one or maybe more, because I saw some questions in the chat of the working groups and under different thematic tracks. What I wanted to point out is that we will have a Q&A session after the entire presentation, and you can ask whatever question you have. So far, we explained what the thematic tracks are about, but also some of you are newcomers. Maybe some of you have never participated in these working groups, in this process, or in the IGF. So I will outline some information for you to keep into consideration, and why some of my colleagues told you, to focus on one thematic track, on one working group, rather than more than one. And that's because it takes time and commitment to be part of one working group, let alone to be part of two or more working groups. So what you are asked or expected to do is not only come up with topics, but to draft the proposal. And to draft the proposal, it takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes some effort. For each session, I outline, you can see in the slide, you can be part of the organizing team of the session, and that be part of the organizing team means that you are part of a team that manage the workshop and manage the content, the speakers, and plan the session. It's made up of the proposer. Usually the first time proposer, the newcomer, a proposal submitted by a newcomer is usually favored by the MAG members, but also organizers are also the moderators and the rapporteurs. The MAG, we will closely look at the diversity of organizers. And diversity means diversity in terms of regional representation, stakeholder groups, and also the age and disability and policy perspective, but also in terms of gender. So what we are trying to do is to propose, to submit proposal that come from our youth-led youth group, but you can reach out to speakers that are not youth, like a very high-level expert. But be mindful of diversity of your team, but also of the speakers. What about the moderators? You will be asked to choose to appoint 2 moderators, one who is going on site, but we cannot provide you funding to go on site. So you have to be sure when you when you volunteer to be an on-site moderator, you have to be sure that you will be able to travel to the IGF to Kyoto. And the online moderators who will take care of moderating and facilitating comments and questions coming through the chat. The third role is the rapporteur. The rapporteur usually submits the main points right after the end of each session. So the rapporteur has to attend physically or virtually the session and takes note of what is going on during the session and submit some bullet points right after the end of the session. And then by 2 weeks after the end of the IGF, the entire full report. And the speakers are, of course, people who will actually have their say during the workshop. And here you have to look at diversity as well in terms of gender, regional representation, stakeholders, age, disability, and in policy perspective. One thing that is important to stress is both organizers and speakers have to be registered in the IGF community system. So you have to be part of the IGF community. It's free, but you have to take time, to fill your profile in the IGF platform. Next slide, please. And here, the selection process, we are here to come up with session proposal, but the selection process is divided in 3 or 4 phases. The first phase is the proposal, to submit the proposal. The call for session proposal will be opening in the early April, and usually it's open for 1 month, but it's also usually extended. Then after the submission, there is the first phase of selection, which is usually formal. So it's carried out by the IGF Secretariat to check if the topics that you have proposed actually fall within the thematic track that you have chosen. The second phase and final selection is carried out by the MAP members and is substantial. The MAP member usually verify the relevance of the topic for the global discussion. So usually when the discussion is too local or too regional, you don't have that much of the chance to get selected. So try to come up with a topic that is as a global relevance. Usually the very regional, geographically narrow topics, they get selected, but it's a little more difficult. They will look at the diversity of the organizing teams and speakers and how you will manage with the hybrid format, trying to give the same space to people attending online and how you also are able to engage people attending on-site, giving space to people attending on-site, but also try to involve people attending online. It's very difficult if you attend on-site, but you have to try to come up with a solution, with a strategy to involve everyone. After this phase, and if your section is selected, you become part of the full program, of the final program, and you have the chance to adjust, make some changes in your sessions. You can change moderators, rapporteurs, or speakers. You cannot, however, change the topics and the format. I will now leave the floor to Umut, who will explain you some ground rules to be part of the working group.
Thank you, Veronica, and hello to everyone. And thanks for being here until this hour. And yeah, before we go into the breakout rules, we need to have some ground rules in order to fulfill our work during this presentation of the different sessions that we want to address during the IGF. The first of these ground rule is the compliance with the U standing group and the U coalition of intergovernmental codes of conduct. This is important because we want that everyone feel not only accepted but also safe during this during this work in the different working groups that we're going to have. Also, we recommend, as we've been saying during all this call, choose carefully the working group that you're going to be part of, because this is a task that requires a lot of commitment. So as we want you to, as we expected that you participate in regular calls, that the proposal and the different roles, and that requires a lot of time and a lot of commitment during and after the IGF. So we need you to be like recognize that you can be part of a working group, but as a really participative or in a really meaningful way. Be respectful of other people's time and commitment. Do not take roles if you are not able to be part of the session or to contribute to, because this can be a little not fair with the people that are actually doing some job or commitment into the proposals that we are presenting. And if and in case if you take roles of moderator and rapporteur, and you know that you will not able to carry out the task, please have into consideration to say that you weren't able to do that and find someone to do that task. Have into account that Japan is probably is far in the east, so for most of the people living in Africa, America, and Euro, the time zones are going to be quite a dim for us. So you need to be aware of that difference of the of time zones in order to say I'm going to do this role. And also be respectful of the time committed by the organizers and coordinator to plan lead this initiative. And we say this because we want you to recognize through different social medias all the content, all the content with the U Standing Group Communication Team and the U Coalition Internet or Internet Governance. Well, saying that and having all these ground rules, we going right now, I think, to the breakout rooms. Yep.
Thank you, Humut. Before opening the breakout rooms, I know that some of you have questions. And if you have a question that may be relevant for everyone, maybe this is the time to ask. And after we answer your question, we can open the breakout room so that you can choose which working groups to join. Does any of you have any questions? Alina. Can someone unmute? Okay.
Yes, I am here. So I have a question. If, for example, I understand that the group that I chose now is not like for me, it's not for my topic. Can I change to another group like later in the process?
Okay. Someone asked a kind of similar question in the chat. So what we are going to do is, for now, to send you, or you can choose one breakout room, and we have 30 minutes. it will not like the entire work of your life. In this 30 minutes, you can brainstorm with the working group you joined, but then we will share also the link to the other working groups so that you can also join the work of other working groups. Maybe today we prefer to have focused working group because this is live and we only have 30 minutes. But later on, you will have the chance to join other working groups. But if you are particularly unhappy with one working group, you can jump to another working group. Just be consistent. I see other comments in the chat.
Yes, people are, for example, one person asks about the role. If they had to choose it right now, right now we're going to discuss more the ideas we want to present for the different proposals. And then after that, in the different goals that you're going to have inside of the working groups, you decide who's going to have a role in the different sessions.
Yes, I will also answer to Mariam's question. It is not said that each working group will submit only one proposal. For example, the AI subcommittee last year presented 3 proposals. So each working group can actually work on more than one proposal. It depends on how the members of which working groups actually work on the proposal, you know. The breakout room will last 30 minutes, yes. Tabitha?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My question is very brief. I have noticed that some of the themes are very closely related and some are cross-cutting. For example, human rights and freedoms. Mm-hmm. So my question is, when we are creating a proposal and you find that my topic has a collection of attached from different sub-themes, will that make my proposal invalid or unqualified to fit for a specific session? Thank you.
Yes, so usually what you do is, it is true that each working group, in each thematic track, you can have different subtopics, and maybe one subtopic can fall within more than 1 or 2 thematic tracks. So ideally, you can propose, you can submit your proposal under 2 thematic tracks. But in the first, if you submit like a topic, like a proposal under 2 thematic tracks, what the IGF will do in the first screening is to eliminate the doubled proposal. So one of them will be ruled out. So what you should do is to see under which thematic track your proposal is better or meet the main the main objective, the main topic. Oh, yes, I think now we open the breakout rooms. I don't know if there are any other questions, but if not, you can start joining the breakout room.
If you can't join the breakout room by yourself, just mention what thematic, what subject you would like to participate in, and we can assign you.